here we have Dave Marzinke going to be talking about investing in real estate on how to, what I want to call house hack, a way to building your financial wealth. And on this broadcast, as far as with the Millennial Realtor Podcast, we want to make sure we help you grow your wealth through buying, selling, and investing in real estate. All right, Dave, thanks for coming in again.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Conrad. Appreciate it.
Round two of this, and we are definitely expanding. We just got signed on to iHeartRadio, so
it's amazing.
We're growing. We're growing at a time, a little bit of a time. So thanks for coming in. You had some great content last time, and I think bringing you as a continual guest on the lending side of things is going to be real helpful for any millennials looking to buy, sell, or invest in real estate.
Still the best way to build wealth in this country. So.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think what people don't really realize is that the housing expense is the biggest expense on a monthly basis, as far as that mortgage that you're going to have to pay first off, on and on and on. You have to pay that. And then all the other expenses involved in your life are kind of big, but not as important. You know, with a car, yeah, you can Uber it everywhere. You can rent whenever you want. You can do a lot of other things, but your housing payment, you know, with bringing you involved, locks it in and actually kind of protects them from inflation on their living expenses.
Exactly, and I see clients, you know, that reach out that have owned their home for 20 years, you know, 25 years, 30 years that are downsizing now, and they've had the same payment for the last 25 years. And, you know, you can't say that if you're renting.
Yeah.
So, and you're building equity, you're having an appreciating asset, so it's, you know, it's definitely something that, you know, we want to educate people on and help them take a look at all the options.
Yeah, and I think bringing you in to talk about the wealth building part is important. And you know, I was talking to you earlier, but how I kind of see myself signing out now, just trying to doing several of these podcast episodes, is that I'm helping people live the American dream.
Right.
You own the home, you own the asset, you own the biggest, most expensive purchase in your lifetime, and I'm here to manage that, and that's kind of my sign off. Live the American dream, and that's with home ownership, and I think that's what we have with lending. You have a lot of opportunities to buy to build this wealth, whether it's to own it yourself or own investment properties, and I think that's what I want to talk to you about today, is kind of investing into real estate. And there's another term for it, house hacking, that I've seen online, and I think it's kind of a pretty big part of growing wealth, and that's just through the long process. Fun fact, I saw on this, Warren Buffett is still paying his mortgage on his Laguna Beach home.
The one that he had up for sale and then he took off the market?
Yeah, he put a mortgage of $50,000 in 1960, and he just slowly paid it off, and he still got a mortgage on it.
Yep. That's crazy, huh?
So, I just wanted to point that fact out there as well. So, getting into investing in as well, what type of programs are there available to kind of invest in real estate and maybe, you know, kind of live there?
Right. Well, yeah, that's the thing with, you know, Fannie Mae, and, you know, we always use the term Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, and on the lending side, but these are the governing bodies that provide the underwriting guidelines to lenders, because they're basically the ones providing the liquidity in the secondary market for lenders, you know. So I want to define that term for everybody.
Right.
But yeah, they allow you to own multi-unit properties, and you can live in one of the units and then rent out the other units. And so it's an owner-occupied property, so you come in with less down for a down payment, and you can use the rents from the other units to help qualify you for that property, for that mortgage on that property.
Right.
So, you know, you can get into a property with, you know, 15% down, you know, on a 4-unit property or 3-unit property, and you know, go into it, you know, using the rents from the other units to help qualify. And so those are amazing things. And then FHA as well, I mean, you can go and buy $1 million 4-unit property, because it's within the FHA county limits,
right,
as far as the loan program, and only put 3.5% down.
So you're taking $35,000 for $1 million asset.
Correct. I mean, that is leveraging.
That
is investing 101, right? Because you're leveraging the bank's money.
And let me repeat that. You're taking $35,000 and you're owning $1 million investment.
Correct.
That over time, hopefully, it will appreciate.
Not only that, but you're living in one of the units, and the other 3 units most likely will cover that mortgage payment for you, or a large chunk of it.
Mm-hmm.
So what is your housing expense really going to be?
Very little.
Yeah. So
very little.
So it's things like that I get excited about, because you can help people see kind of the bigger picture and take a look at opportunities.
Yeah, and I did a comparison on the 3.5% as far as buying a house, and people talk about, oh yeah, that's very small. I want to make sure I have a bigger equity. Let's put it into perspective. That 3.7%, which is on historical average on real estate. Now, there's no guarantee, just folks, no guarantees about real estate. It goes up and goes down, but on the historical average, about 3.7%. Putting 3.5% down on something that you're going to get a 3.5% on the overall asset. I did the numbers on it, and even if you take the closing expenses, it doesn't matter. There's going to be expenses to any type of investment that you have, like investing in stocks and bonds.
Right.
So let's put them aside. They're generally about the same amount, 1%, etc., as far as that's concerned. So a 3.5% down and in an appreciating market of 3.7%, that's 105% return after 1 year.
Yeah.
Because that $35,000 is controlling that $1 million asset. Take the $35,000, where can you get 105% return?
Yeah.
So I get excited about this basically, and even still with a normal FHA, 3.5% down, just on a normal appreciating market, then that's going to build equity.
Yeah, exactly.
So, okay, now these programs that you have out there, how does it work as far as the FHA programs, FA&A programs to invest in these duplex, triplex, quadplexes?
Yeah, basically what we're going to do is take a look at qualifications for credit, income, for the borrower, like we would any normal loan. But then we're also going to get an appraisal, a rent schedule done with the appraisal when we go into contract.
Okay.
And all that. So that's going to determine what the market rents are for those units, and so and that's going to be used by underwriting to help offset the mortgage payment and use that as qualifying income. And so for conventional underwriting, we use basically a 25% vacancy factor,
Gotcha.
Maintenance factor. So you can only use 75% of the gross rent. What that means. And for FHA, there's a formula that the underwriter takes you through. Basically the gross rents, and then your mortgage payment, and then the underwriter has a calculation that they do on how much they can use for that. So, but you're using income from the property to help
Right.
qualify and buy that property. So that's how it would work if you're going to buy it as an owner occupied, where you're going to live in one of the units.
Right.
Yeah.
So hypothetically, you want to buy, you said 75%. Hypothetically, you want to buy a fourplex. That one of those units is vacant, so you can live in it, and use the other 3 to qualify. Is that kind of the process to it? Or?
Yeah. So say the other 3 units are generating $1,500 a month rent for each unit. So we're looking at about $4,500 a month in income, gross income from that property, and we use 75% of that figure towards your qualifying income for the mortgage.
Nice.
Yeah.
So you live in it over a period of time, and guys like myself who are single, no brainer. And then if I get married and have kids, obviously I want to move out to do something else, and then that other unit becomes
then you rent out the other unit. It's not like you are obligated to stay in that property 5 years, 10 years. So you move in there, and your intention is to be an owner-occupied unit, and so you have to live in there, and you sign documentation that you're going to intend to live in there for the next 12 months, and that's the process. But people have life events, they move on, and you have an asset that you've acquired, and now you can rent out all 4 units.
Yep. For $35,000, you own $1 million.
Yeah.
So over a period of time, where else can you generate that? I mean, it's just amazing about that, because that in the end, when 30 years from now, that when the mortgage is paid off, if you still want to pay it off, completely. I know that you and I talked about people kind of reinvest and kind of blow it up into something else where you can take money, equity, and buy the next property.
Right.
I mean, that's another strategy, and we can talk about that another day.
We can go into cross collateralization and do all those other things, but
Yeah. So, but I think it's just amazing because you can actually see, on paper, that once the loan is paid off over that 30-year period of time, that it's $1 million.
Yeah.
Relatively speaking.
I
mean, if it's Detroit, you never know. It could
hey, I moved out here from Michigan, don't bash Detroit, so go Red Wings.
So I think that's something that you can see in mind as far as where that's concerned versus investing it in a 401k, which is, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just you can actually see it on paper where things are going.
Yeah.
So okay, versus let's just say you wanted to invest in a fourplex, but you didn't want it into what are people? How do you compare that?
Yeah, so if you're going to buy it as an investment property and not occupy the property or occupy one of the units, then for 4 units, the minimum down payment is going to be 25% at that
25.
time. So for conventional FHA, you can't use FHA because that has to be an owner-occupied property. But there's programs where if you can go through Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac and qualify off your tax returns and your W-2s and pay stubs, and also the rents that are being generated, or there's other programs, what we call debt service programs, right?
Okay.
So, and that is exciting because basically you're qualifying off the property, the property is qualifying for itself, right?
Sure.
And you're not having to deal with tax returns, you're not having to deal with income documentation, all those things. All you're looking at is, does this debt, is it serviced by the income that's generated from this property? Right? And so as long as that ratio is 1.15, right? So what that means is basically you take the mortgage payment, and as long as the gross rents are 15% more than the mortgage payment, that's the principal and interest, taxes, and insurance, all that, then you're qualifying on that property without tax returns and any other thing to do with your personal income.
Gotcha.
So it opens the door for investors because they can acquire more properties without having to go through the hassle of digging up all these tax returns, providing all this documentation, because we're just looking at, does this property service itself? It's kind of taking what commercial does and applying it to residential.
Yeah, to the four units and below.
And you can do this, 3 units, 2 units, single family home.
Yeah.
Or 4 units.
Absolutely. So, and based on how you can qualify, I think that's kind of more where if you look for a duplex versus triplex versus quadplex, obviously you want the maximum, bang for your buck, which would be into the quadplex.
Yeah.
As far as from what I see, based on that, but but 3.5% down versus 25%. That's a big difference. 35,000 versus 250,000 on $1 million fourplex.
Right.
That's still good. I mean, and then you have a 3.5% increase. What is it? 30,000. I'll say 1 out of 8. So 12%. I guess that's okay. Even at 25% down, but it's not the bigger bang for your buck with the 3.5% down.
Yeah.
So okay. And then you mentioned about income qualifications and jumping into that approval process. Still using that here. Okay. One thing that I kind of read up upon and haven't really practiced this, and I think we talked about this briefly. I don't remember how this works exactly, but from what I read, is if you buy a 3-bed home and rent out 2 units or two bedrooms of the units that live in there, that's kind of what this house hacking term I've heard from. But you still have to, go through the same process of living there for 12 months, right?
Yeah, so for that situation, you can't use that income that you're going to generate off the other 2 bedrooms, so to speak, as helping you to qualify for the mortgage. They're just going to qualify you based on, can you afford this mortgage on your own? Because room rent, so to speak, that's not something that an appraiser can give market rent to and all that, but that's definitely a hack that people can go in, buy the house. I mean, I had a client do this for a condo in Aliso Viejo. You know,
Nice.
first time home buyer. She went in, just really sharp young girl that was talking about, you know, her dad was coaching her on real estate investing.
Nice.
She went in, bought this 3-bedroom condo in Aliso, rented the other 2 units out, or the other two
Two
bedrooms, excuse me, 2 units, but 2 bedrooms, right?
Yeah.
You know, and then basically took that rent that they was getting from those other 2 people and like paid down the principal, and then boom, sold it in 3 years and bought a nice single family home.
Wow.
With her new husband.
Wow.
And new baby.
Nice.
And
Yeah.
so it's, you know, it's a great strategy to take a look at.
Yeah, and I think that's a great strategy, and you know, selling to the next or continually renting it out. You know,
Yeah.
depending on what your tolerance is to dealing with, you know, repairs, being a landlord, getting those midnight calls, and based on that. But I guess with the
So we have property managers.
Yep. That's why I'm going to hire someone.
Yes.
Yeah. So
I had a rental property in Foothill Ranch, and I had the great tenants in there, but it was just, you know, Sunday afternoon, August, air conditioning goes out, and you know, the phone's blowing up, and I'm like, I'm sorry, let me get, you know, you gotta scramble and get that stuff.
I would say, I would say make sure the home warranty is updated.
Exactly.
Just
pay that home warranty.
Pay the home warranty, because then you just keep re-updating every year, and it's a $75 to have someone to service it. And with condos, you know, you're not going to have to mow the lawn, because the association's going to take care of that.
Yep.
So okay, as far as through the quadplexes, triplexes. Now, you know, we talked about this, and I think, you know, I want to make sure, I want to clarify for the listeners out there, the amount that you can qualify for a loan as far as property values based on county, correct?
Yeah, so Fannie Mae and FHA, you know, they base their loan limits based on the county that they're in and what the median home price is for that county. So they classify it as, you know, for counties that the standard for Fannie Mae is $484,000 for a single family home. Right. All right. And then as you go up in units, then that goes higher. You know, and then high cost area, single family home is at $726,545. Excuse me. Mm-hmm. And then you go up from there in units.
Yep.
You know, so like a 4-unit in a high cost county, I think is like 1.2 million or just under 1.3. You know, and as you go in the standard counties, like say Riverside County, then you know the 4 units going to go up in that 900,000 range. I don't have the exact figures. We can get them.
Yeah, you know. FHA provides that for
everybody. You can go on the website or Fannie Mae's website or FHA's website.
And to clarify, these numbers are as of 2019. They might change for 2020.
They might raise them. You know, they've raised them in the last 2 years, but you know, who knows what they'll do. We'll get that information probably the end of December.
Yeah, but it's always good to start off the new year with a lot more to purchase.
Exactly.
So, okay.